they're coming down on me. Blues all around, they're coming down on me. I'm down on my luck, sad as any man can be. I fooled myself, trying to live like a millionaire. I fooled myself, trying to live like a millionaire. My woman walked out, find another fool somewhere. She wanted more than I could ever afford. She wanted so much more than I could ever afford. I ain't got no money, here comes my landlord. Blues all around, they follow me everywhere. Blues all around, they follow me everywhere. I wish I could go back when I didn't have a care.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio. You know we love our music, and for those of you that were listening on Spotify or on YouTube, that was Savoy Brown. That was Blues All Around, the title track to the newest and latest album of Savoy Brown. And sadly, this was the last album that the amazing guitarist Kim Simmonds put together with his band. And I encourage you to go to the website savoybrown.com. Today, we're really excited to have Garnet Grimm here, who's a drummer and percussionist, and Pat DeSalvo here, bass player. Both of them are on the show. So I'm going to introduce you each. Pat, how are you? Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm very good. Thank you.
I think
Hello.
we're both on our same planet.
Yeah.
I'm down on Earth. I'm
Yeah,
on
well,
Earth.
you're going to drive us there. You're going to get us there, Garnet. Welcome to the show. Garnet, tell us about how you first connected with Kim.
I first connected with him in 1999, and I was invited to do a recording with Kim outside of Savoy Brown. It was a solo project. And I was sort of surprised that day when I got to the studio. Pat was there. And we all did that recording together, and a couple of things came out of that day. One was we started friendship that day, all three of us actually. And um, there was a recording that ended up coming out of that day called Blues Like Midnight. It was a acoustic record that Kim did. And so we got to be friends, played around a little bit with that. And it wasn't until about 2008 that Kim's bass player at the time was having health issues, and Pat was invited to do some gigs to cover for that. And I'm going to let Pat take over from here. He can take over the story.
So I went on the road with Kim in 2000. Yeah, I think 2008, 2009. And it was about a three or 4 week tour. And when the tour ended, Kim asked me if I could pursue it and do it full time with them. I had a full-time job, and they were very nice to let me continue to tour with Kim the whole time I was with them. And about a month or so later, Garnet joined the band, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Oh, that's awesome. But I mean, what a legend to work with as well. You know, I think Kim goes down as one of the top guitarists, and just like he's royalty of blues, and then, you know, coming from England, you know, touring out here, doing, you know, I go back to old school, like the Fleetwood Mac days of Peter Green, like his music, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I put him on that precipice of those guitar legends, but not just I mean, even listen to this album. I mean, he's still a badass, you know. When you I'm sorry, but you know, it was double heartbreak when Jeff Beck went too, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, they were both very innovative in guitar playing, but still had that soul. You can have all the technique in the world, but they brought this soul, especially Kim, the grit, the soul, is so there, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I consider him in that group too, you know, with Clapton and, you know, all those guys, John Mayall. So yeah, Stan Webb from Chicken
Didn't
Shack.
Eric Clapton get him started? Kim Simmonds kind of
Well,
got him inspired a little bit.
well, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't doubt that he was inspired by him, but I think Kim was already playing. Kim's a little bit younger, but only by about 4 years. So I'm not really sure. I mean, I don't know. Pat might know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I think Savoy Brown was actually opened up for the first Cream show they did in London.
Yeah, they did a bunch of the, if I remember right, some of the first Zeppelin shows and some of the first Cream shows back then. But those guys would all be playing the same clubs. It would be, you know, Jeff Beck, and it would be Fleetwood Mac, and like Garnet said, Chicken Shack. All those guys were playing the same venues at that time.
Yeah.
They were like the sort of like the second wave, you know, with the Yardbirds already preceded them.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones, those guys.
The Animals.
How did Kim feel about blues today in the scene now? And for each of you, how are you feeling about what happens from here? Because I feel like he's still like inspired younger artists, like people looked up to learn. So for you, Garnet, what do you think that when you guys were touring and playing with him, recording, that younger artists coming up and still keeping the blues alive, man?
Yeah, I think one thing Kim was with keeping his you know, his inspirations alive as far as blues and blues rock. I mean, he never really strayed far off. I mean, okay, maybe in the 60s and the 70s there were a couple albums that he stretched out a little bit, but in recent years especially, I mean, he always had a really blues foundation, and he continues with that. And yes, I do think there's a lot.
We lost you for a second. Come
Okay,
back.
but I'm here. Okay.
Yeah, good.
So yes, I do think he was an influence on a lot of younger players, and it was cool also, as far as the fans. I do remember, you know, older fans coming out with their grown children, and so it was generational. And yeah, I think he was very inspirational to younger players. So
Mm.
uh,
Yeah.
for
Pat, what
sure.
did you for you when you were playing with him? What did you see his effect on people? And for you, did he change? Did well not change how you played, but did you learn from him?
Oh, definitely. He was a good teacher. My playing developed, I thought, tremendously working with him. He was kind of a taskmaster, and he always wanted to put out the best music he could. And we rehearsed quite a bit. And me and Garnet were really into doing that and really refining and refining not only our trade but the music we were putting out. As far as he really liked the blues scene the way it was going because it was still thriving and it's still growing, and he was very supportive of a lot of young players. I know I was doing a festival with Sean Chambers, and Damon Fowler came up to me and he told me what an influence he was on him and what great talks he had. And then we were on the Rock Legend cruise, and Henry, who was guitar player in Heart and now Bad Company, he wanted to meet Kim because he told me he would sneak out and go to the Whiskey a Go Go to go see him play. So there was a he influenced a real lot of people. Just he was out there before, not before he was out there so early. It would be hard not to listen to his records and be influenced. You look at David Lee Roth covered 3 songs on his acoustic record, or not his acoustic record, on his solo record. Richie Sambora has covered Hellbound Train. Government Mules recently covered Street Corner Talking. Great White has covered his songs. Charlie Musselwhite. So yeah, he's out there. He's out. People definitely have listened to him.
I remember Hellbound Train and playing this and talking to a friend, and they were like, Lisa, how do you know Savoy Brown? You're young. I'm like, if you're into blues and the music and like blues rock, how can you not listen? I mean, it's got nothing to do with age. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this was about 20 years ago. So, I mean, now I can't talk like that now, but back then I could. But he came, and you guys came into like one of our old hometowns, Julian and San Diego up in the mountains, and played at the Blues Bash. Rob Bauer used to I mean, we did some crazy radio shows with him, and I know Alistair Green came on, and but
Yep.
highlight for Rob as he got to jam with you guys, I think, and
Yeah,
Kim.
he did.
So,
Yeah, Alistair's
Yeah.
a great guy. I really
yeah,
like him.
yeah.
I
That
I
go ahead.
remember it being quite hot that day, hot and dusty. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
summer.
cool.
It was summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you get any apple pie when you were up in Julian? It's famous for it,
Ooh.
You were at the
Um.
winery. I know you were at
uh,
Mangini Winery.
Yeah, I think
That's
we. You know what? It's weird you say that. I think we did get apple pie for dessert.
yes.
you know that this is the important conversation about blues. Well, listen,
Yeah,
food goes with it. All
yeah.
Yeah.
bands need to be well fed, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No,
Let's
that was a cool little festival they had going there. So is
Yeah,
it
well,
still going?
chill. No, he stopped doing that. He retired from it all. He did one there and one in Yuma, Arizona, and he just really worked his butt off to make those happen. And then it was time for Rob to go out and get recording with his band and all of that, which is great. So happy for him. And I see him on Facebook every day, and then when I tag him on this, he's going to freak out and he's going to get mad at me for not bringing him on the show. I should have. He would
He
have
was
loved it. He
he
would really
was
have loved
very
it.
good at the festival. At least he was a really good guy. I remember we had a
We,
really good talk. We had a good talk with him. But
yeah,
but I love that area. Is Ramona Stage still
Ramona.
going?
Ramona.
Ramona. Yeah, it was named after Ramona of the book from Helen Hunt Jackson. Yeah, in the play. Yep.
Yeah. What a
Yeah,
great
we
place
played
that is.
there a
And
few
that
times.
guy, I can't think of his name now, but the guy that runs the place is a really wonderful guy, and he's a character. Do you remember his name, Garnett? I'm blanking
I
right now.
can't remember it off the top of my head,
No.
but yeah.
He is a character. He's from Chicago. That's all I remember.
Huh.
What a
I don't
great
know.
guy, though.
Huh. I've no Yeah, I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've got to go home for a little, shenanigans because I love that town. And the thing about that is like those festivals are so precious and it's so important for us as fans to go out to these festivals and support the smaller ones too. Not always these huge ones, but when they're those size where people are just there's like a freedom, like all ages, kids are dancing in the grass. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Everybody
Yeah.
just, it's kind of like a big family hanging out at those kind of festivals. So I'm glad you got to go to one of our favorite places in the world and go there. But I want to talk about the album Blues All Around. And this is out through Quarto Valley Records now. But I mean, it's still very recent since Kim's passing, but he was working on this all last year, right?
Right.
Did he kind of think this was going to be a big deal for his fans later, or?
Well, Kim was always working. I mean, I don't know that I think there was a sense of urgency with this one for sure, but he is I think he's got enough material even for another record. So
Wow.
what we had to do this one a little different because Kim was not feeling 100%, of course. So we were used to recording live.
Right.
Everything we've done up to this point was live. So Kim wanted to do this. We weren't quite sure how to do it. So he sent he sent demos that he had already put together to Pat and myself and Ron Keck, who is the sound engineer at the studio we were working at, Subcat. And we studied it for a bit. And the odd thing was, Pat, we never got to really practice as a band. We just
Oh, wow.
had to learn it and on our own. And Pat and I went in together and just started knocking out the tracks as best as we could. And so we had to build this thing from the ground up, which was a really different experience for us, as we had done with Kim before. So Kim came in, I think, on the second day and gave us some instructions and added some things, harmonica and stuff like
Mm.
that. So, yeah, but Pat and I just Pat flew up and we met in the studio and just hammered it out.
Wow.
And it fell together pretty good, don't you think, Pat?
Yeah, we've played together so long, and we knew what Kim wanted, from working with him for all these years. Where um, we basically did all the tracks. We did like 12 or 14 tracks in one day, Lisa. And
Whoa.
I really wouldn't
That's a
change
lot.
anything. Yeah, it was. But we've always. Here's the thing about us: we rehearsed so much over the years, and really did our due diligence. It really worked. When we've gone into the studio, sometimes the clock would start at about 8 or 9, and by 12 o'clock, all our tracks would be done for the record. And because it's best if you're going prepared and do it like a live show, because it won't get stale. The energy's there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you sang, and if you do something 3 or 4 takes later, it's like, oh my God,
You've lost the magic.
Yeah.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that
but
live, that get it done now. That's where some of that extra creativity and jam quality comes in because I know he's like you're saying he's got that perfectionist part of him, but it
right,
still sounds like this really live jam. You know what I
yeah.
mean? And I think that's the cool groove of it.
I've
Yeah.
compared it to is like in jazz, you got a bunch of guys that'll do what they call the head, and then they play. We in the studio to do the record, we would do that basically like that, and then when the solo would come on, then we just would open up. And on our live performances, there's some live CDs out. If you listen, that's what we do. We'll expand on the song and take it somewhere, and that'll never happen probably again. That was in the moment. And that was the good thing about playing with Kim. And that's why I think we progressed so much, the three of
Mhm.
us, and got to a certain level. We're just who we are. I'm not the world's best bass player, but I'm functional. So you just do the best you can, but it's really, it's got to be coming from the heart. You can't fake it. This is what we do, and this is who we are, and we just try to have it come across that way. And that was good. But the one good thing, one of the many good things working with Kim is things were very organic. I would have to say, you know.
I think it's interesting too when you have a tight three. You know, when you don't have 20 million people performing at once. I mean, there's great albums with multiple people, and so I'm not going against it. I just think when there's the core, and obviously you guys being the foundation, the bass and the drums, don't ever mess with the foundation. You ain't got
Yeah, right.
you ain't
Right.
got whatever
Well,
without the foundation. But there's a strength in that where it's just it doesn't get too fluffy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you with a trio, there's no place to hide. I can tell you that. Everybody's
Yeah.
got to work. Everybody's got to pull their weight.
Yeah, it's like being
So,
a stand-up. If you're going to go down, you're all going down. You
yeah,
know what I
right.
mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's for
That
sure.
yeah, really. But this is such a good album. One of my favorite tracks on there is Going South, because going down south, that I don't know, it feels, and Gypsy. Well, I started going through and going, well, which this to play this one, to play that one, and the whole thing is highlighted. And that's, I mean,
That's
it's not,
great.
yeah, but like, so I think that's the other part of it is he's got that slight edge of psychedelia and that buildup. You know, it's like that buildup. You know it's going to go. You're going to levitate, as our friend Willie Kelliger, the late drummer. He used to drum for Flying Burrito Brothers, Ken Heat, and
Oh,
Johnny
yeah.
Hooker and stuff. He used to tour with them, and sadly he's passed too. But he would teach me like, no, we're going to levitate, man. Well, he was always levitating in his own way, but he was to levitate. And that was the thing. He's like, you've got to build it up, but have that strong. He was the
Yeah.
shuffle king, we called him. Like, you still have to keep building, and that's an interesting thing. And I think that comes from that tightness of being the drums and the bass, and then the guitar can be wild around that strength of pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
We did some shows with Can Heat. They were pretty funny, I thought.
yeah. I used to play with Joe Scott Hill, Joe Scott Hill, and then Willie stabbed him at a concert in Julian.
Ooh.
Real.
Well, because Joel was a little nuts at the time, like he was a little high, and I put this concert on at Bailey's, and
Yeah.
Joel was a little he was on stuff, man. And little
Oh.
Willie's got, little Willie, and he has his little cane, and so he
Hmm.
comes up to Nancy, my mom, and he goes, I stabbed the devil. He was being an ass, and I stabbed the devil, man. Now they're both passed on, but
Oh my
he
God.
did. He opened up and was like, just like, shut up, and stabbed him.
Oh my God.
And then we had to go on stage, and I was like, "Oh my God!" It was some crazy
Yeah.
times.
He had to be bleeding on stage, though,
A
right?
little bit, just a little bit. He was, he barely felt it. That's how high he was.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but and that's a sad thing about that world, is that, and but yeah, he eventually passed away, also cancer.
Yeah.
But he sat in as the main guitarist for Can Heat for about 2 years. Joel Scott Hill is a hell of a guitarist, but yeah, that's some crazy stuff. But going back to you guys performing and getting the guitar tracks on here, it does have some psychedelia to me,
Yeah.
and some mystical, like the gypsy style. It's like you've got that little bit of magic, like
Yeah. Kim
mysticism,
could.
I should say.
Yeah, definitely. Kim could do that. He would do that in a few songs that I can think of when we would do live shows. He would do that psychedelic kind of guitar work that I think you're referencing. And yeah, it was
Yeah.
cool. You could jam off of that for a long time,
And then harp
but
too. His harp playing was really good
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Can't
and
forget the harp.
he added some keyboard parts. He's a pretty solid musician, Kim was, and
Yeah.
yeah. So he had I think these tracks on this, I think they were older demos that he may have stored away for a while. I think, and that's how we ended up getting these. We they resurfaced, and I think he's got enough for some more material for another recording possibly. So there might be another Savoy Brown record out there yet. So let's see.
That's awesome. That'd be awesome. I love it. I love this album. It's cool. It's going to be road trip music for us for sure.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then I'll get a speeding ticket, and then I'm going to call you both up and say, "Dudes, what did you do?" It's that drive again, man. That's that drive. So, Pat, what's next for you?
Well, me and Garnet right now, this is another story. We're playing with Sean Chambers. And Sean was with Hubert Sullivan for quite a while. He's actually younger than me, and he's also on the same label we're on. And we're playing some shows. Actually, we'll be doing some shows coming up, and we've done a few festivals down in Florida, and we got a trip planned for up north. We did go to was it October? We went to Europe with him for several weeks and did a tour there, and it meshed really good. So me and Garnett are still playing together, and we're hoping to, you know, continue with Sean now for a while.
Yeah, Sean is someone who is also on Quarto Valley.
Nice.
So we're label mates with him. We met Sean a few years back when we were touring with Savoy Brown in Iowa at a festival. Sean had played ahead of us, and he wanted to meet Kim, and we all kind of hit it off. So Sean and Kim sort of kept in touch frequently, you know, over the last few years. And when Sean realized that Kim wasn't going to be able to tour. Sean had offered us some work, which was nice of him. And we got Kim's blessing. We talked to him about it, and he was like, "Yeah, man, do what you have to do." And so when we were on the road, when we were touring Europe back in October, sometimes, I don't know, once or twice a week, all four of us would get around the phone, and the three of us in Europe, and we'd talk with Kim for a while, and he was always full of advice and wanted to know what we were up to. So we were pretty keeping in close contact with him. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. It
was
seems
cool.
that coming from this conversation that, and we'll go to you, Pat, on this, is that it's a relationship. Like, you couldn't do all of this and tour if you didn't get along.
Right.
Oh man, yeah.
You're right on that. Yeah. We just, the way we came into the band, both of us, was different than most groups too. I met Kim back, I think, in '88, and we had become friends, and we would just talk, just about life, and just talk. And when he asked me to join the band, I had already recorded 4 or 5 projects with him, and Garnet had done some too. So we had a relationship where he already knew us and knew what we were about, and he really appreciated our work ethic. And we did get along. There's moments in any relationship where it isn't perfect, but we got along really well, and it came out in the music. We really were a team, and we played that way on stage, and we took care of each other off the stage. It really was ideal. When we were doing it, I knew this was like an unusual thing that was happening within the group, where you got guys that don't argue, they just work together and try to do the best they can. But every once in a while, you just got to think about what the other guy is trying to do, and work with them, and make them better. That's what a team does. Any team, football team.
Well,
basketball,
yeah,
whatever.
I'd like to add to that a little bit. I mean, I think, first of all, I'd like to say that I'm honored that Pat and I think we're the longest running rhythm section that Savoy Brown ever had. And I think that had to do with our friendship, So we never had a road manager the whole time Pat and I were in the band. It was us. Kim's wife, Debbie, would often, she always booked the flights, booked the hotels, advance the shows. She would often sell merch for us. And when we were on the road, it was, Pat and Garnet did most of the road manager stuff. And it was just us managing us. It wasn't we were sort of lean and mean, but we all knew what we had to do. And it worked out pretty good that way for us for quite a while, almost 14 years.
Yep.
That's a while. well. That's especially touring, right? Touring is rough.
Yeah.
Because I was just talking about with another interview with another musician about like you're on the road, and then how do you not get a high from the performance and then calm down to get rest and then keep going?
Right.
Yeah.
And because it is. I mean, do you still get that high when you're on there and like, wow, people are digging it and the energy in the room, people, dancing crazy.
Definitely.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
it's hard to.
Definitely. I think that the difference though with when we were younger, what did we do? Well, we were feeling great after a show maybe, and what'd you do? You stayed up all night long drinking and
Yep.
having a good time. And
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is I think we were all adults at this point, so so it was like, okay, that was great, but we probably ought to get to the hotel so we can sleep,
But I
do
think
it
it's
all over
changed
again.
now, even like for the younger musicians. Now they're like, doing smoothies. They don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do any of the,
Yeah,
they're all clean. It's like, oh, you learn, especially for voice, like you're not supposed to smoke or drink. And I can't say I didn't, I know I failed miserably
oh yeah,
at not, at
yeah,
behaving myself, that didn't last very long.
yeah.
Yeah, no, you have to have a good time. And I swear to God, it's like, if I feel like you should have a little bit of that taste of the rock and roll blues lifestyle. And just a little, doesn't mean you have
Yeah,
to go crazy, but just a
yeah,
little, you know, but,
yeah,
you
yeah.
guys
And
had
I
fun.
can remember, oh my gosh, the early days where you drive home all night after something like that, and you get home and the birds are chirping and the sun's starting to come up. You're going, oh man, I've been out all night. So yeah, we got rid of those days. Those days are behind us.
Pat's still doing it though.
Yep.
Oh, well, he's in another universe. You can see where
Yeah.
he is.
See,
Yep.
Pat doesn't go to sleep ever. He's permanently
No.
beamed up.
Right. I have a hard time sleeping. I really do.
Yes.
I can't sleep. I remember we
Yeah.
came back from Japan one time, and I got off the plane and I went right to work.
Oh
And
man.
I walked in. They go, "What are you doing?" I go, "I can't sleep." And if we came from Europe, I never would. I'd always be up that to the next day.
Yeah, it's
This
hard.
some people, some people they acclimate differently. I don't know.
Well, isn't it hard too? It's like you're working on a song where like you can't shake it until you get it down. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
think that's kind of brilliant too. Like you're saying, is like get it down, do it,
Yeah.
move on. Otherwise, it sits there, and if you try to go to sleep, man, you can hear the drum. Like I have a hard time because of music. I'll start if it starts in my head. That's it. I'm screwed for
Mm.
like a week because it'll just stay and rotate and rotate. I can literally see the record spin in my brain. So does that happen to you guys when you're working on an album, or do you just
Well,
move on like once you got it?
I mean, with Savoy Brown anyway, I mean, Kim was always the premier songwriter, so he wrote all the songs. So I'll bet you that went on with him. Yes, for sure. In fact, we would talk about that sometimes where something would be bothering him, but and we would often end up with different versions of the same song. So it might, with key changes, lyric changes, shuffle, one's a shuffle, the next one's a rock beat. So he kept trying stuff until we got it to work. But
I remember that one time. I know we were in Santa Cruz at Moe's Alley, and we were rehearsing at sound. We were doing like a sound check, and he had an idea for something. And he looked at Garnet, and Garnet was playing something. He goes, "Garnet, don't play the first thing that comes to your head." Remember that? We
yeah,
talked about that before. When I was looking at him, going like, "What did you say? What do you mean? Don't play the first thing?"
you got to play the
I got an
second
idea.
thing.
Let me
The
go to the
second thing
next
that
one
comes
right
good.
now.
That that
That was hysterical, Lisa.
that sounds like what Nancy always says to me. Is like, don't say the first thing that comes into your head, and that's too late.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's the first thing that came in my head. What are you supposed to do?
I know. What, sit on it? No.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
it was
Oh
funny.
man. Well, so these songs, did he tell you like about writing these ones? I know you want to play Texas Love. Um, so did he tell you about any of the stories behind the songs, or you just get into it and
Well, this is a good opportunity to share a story about one of the songs that involved Pat and I. So what
uh-oh.
happened was with California Days Gone By, the demo that Kim sent didn't really match the lyric. So we didn't really know what to do about it. And I do remember Kim saying, I hope we can keep this song because he really liked the story. It was about, basically about a band hanging out in California in the days gone by, the 60s. And so it was kind of autobiographical, I think, for him. Uh, anyway, the the tune was it needed a rock groove or something, and it was more of a country.
Country.
Yeah, it was kind of a country
Kim
tune.
went
So
country.
Yeah,
yeah,
He can.
so
really. It was like weird. It was
so
like
uh, Kim left the
funny.
studio. Kim left the studio that day, and Pat and I just continued to play grooves for about an hour until until we landed on something that we thought might,
Play the
might.
100th thing that you thought that came to your head.
Yeah, we were playing the 100th thing that came to our mind that day. And I
Oh,
remember Ron Keck, the engineer, just basically had his finger on the record button for an hour,
oh,
So that was cool.
well,
So what we did, so what you're listening to on the record was finally something we landed on that we thought might be more reflective of the space that Kim was trying to get you in.
when he wrote, did he write the actual like notation of music, or would it be chords and then you listen to what he played and go from that?
Yeah,
No, he was
it would,
just
yeah,
the
go ahead,
demo.
Pat.
Yeah, it would just
Yeah,
be the demo.
You just
It
go
would
off the
be
demo.
it would usually just be him with a guitar. Sometimes he had a drum machine he would throw behind it to give me an idea of what beat he was thinking about or something like that. But often it was just him and the guitar and or a lot of times we would get to rehearsal and he would show us what he was thinking.
Mhm.
And so yeah.
But not writing it down the actual notes. I wonder how
no.
many people read music these days, if it's, I don't even know if it's necessary with the way technology is and with computers. Do
Right,
you
yeah.
read music, Pat?
I wonder how many people are actually playing their instruments.
Don't start. How many
I
people are
know.
actually singing without, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I saw a good thing on Frank Zappa, and man, his manuscript work was just incredible. I mean, he wrote everything out and on manuscript, and it's unbelievable to look at. There's a documentary, I think it might be on Amazon Prime or one of those shows. But I was shocked at his. You can believe his manuscript work. It's phenomenal what he did.
He
He
was a
wrote out all the.
genius.
Oh my God, yeah, yeah.
He
And
really was, like, yeah. I mean, and a perfectionist.
yeah, and the Captain Beefheart stuff. I mean, those guys were definitely still years ahead of what people could comprehend. I think luckily I got to see him. He was. I remember Ruth
Oh,
Underwood was in the band and Ainsley Jump. It was really they were brilliant
and
musicians.
have you read his biography that he wrote?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, he nails every type of musician. Like, basically, if you're a keyboardist, you're like, I can't say all the words. I can. I can't say the first thing that comes to my head.
Right.
Let's go back to that. But anyway, he basically just attaches each musician style or instrument, if you're a keyboardist or a bass guitarist, to a personality. And this is the personality of a lead guitarist. This is the personality of a rhythm. And then I started thinking about it and I was like, ooh, man, that's kind of bitchy,
Mhm.
but quite
Yeah,
true. But quite
yeah. He was
true.
he was he was really brilliant. I mean, he was one of those guys I just stumbled upon. We were talking to somebody else. How did you stumble upon the blues? And me and Garnet basically stumbled bands that were playing. And when they started coming over, they were like, you started listening to the material and like, where did this come from? I mean, that's how I discovered Muddy Waters and John Lee Hooker, any of those bands. It was Because over here, where would you listen to them back in the 60s, in the 70s? Where would you hear these bands? They weren't on the radio, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, it was.
And everybody else made money off it. We were doing this, talking about this on we have our Big Daily Blend show on Spotify, and we go down the rabbit hole of music every single day. We're like, what happened on this day? And then like, who stole what? Who really wrote what? Who like, you think about all those Black blues guys and women who never made a dime off of what they wrote, and it's, you know, being used to this day, and people are making so much money. Like, look at Spoonful. You know, I was like playing that the other day, and I'm like, you know how many people have made money off of Spoonful? You know, that's a good song.
It's
the artist, that's
definitely
for sure.
Yeah. But it's cool that you guys are still performing and moving forward. I really do hope a second album comes out, but please keep us posted as you keep moving forward with your gigs and tours and all of that good stuff. It's just a pleasure to hear this album. Everyone, blues all around, get it now, and you can go get it on Spotify. But are there hard copies of this for people to get?
Oh yeah,
cool.
Amazon and at our website.
Yeah, SavoyBrown.com.
Yeah, SavoyBrown.com. You can also check Kim's artwork out.
Oh God, I wanted to bring that up. See, he does have some psychedelia in him.
He was a great artist, and you can, if you go to the Savoy Brown website, you'll get a lot of information there, and other discs, and a lot of Kim's art there. So it's a good place to go. And I should mention too, I mean, Pat and I know firsthand, Kim was a pretty good cook too. He would cook for us sometime. Great Indian cook.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you know how many musicians, especially the songwriters, are really good chefs.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's about creative. It's creative.
Yeah, creative. Yeah, for sure.
And a lot of songwriters do art, you know. Annie Haslam, have you seen her art? Oh my gosh. She paints on guitars. And it's like trippy, cool stuff. But like Joni Mitchell and Grace Slick, you know. And then, hey, President George Bush is an awesome artist. How the hell did that happen? I don't know.
Really?
Yeah,
I
check
didn't know
out
that.
his art. I'm like going, like, that it's amazing art. But I'm just, even Dylan and his, you know, ironwork and everything, because creativity never ends, man. There's no limits to it, you know. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I dig it. Cool, guys. Well, listen, you take care. We're going to play another song from the album. We're going to close it with Texas Love. That's for all of you on YouTube and Spotify. And everyone, again, go to SavoyBrown.com. Thank you so much for joining us here on Big Blend Radio.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Take care.
Thanks for having us.
She's got class, she's nonchalant. Give me what I need when I want. She's the one I'm always thinking of. Ain't no one around like my Texas love. My Texas love. Way she dresses, Western style, denim and boots, makes me smile. She shines brighter than the stars above. Ain't no one around like my Texas love. My Texas love. She can be nasty, and that's real nice. When we're together, she can melt ice. She can be gentle just like a morning dove. Ain't no one around like my Texas love. My Texas love.